Formally, it is required of a life jacket to be able to float for 24 hours in fresh water with a 15-kilo iron weight with not more than 5% reduction of its buoyancy. Ventilated cases of lockers in proximity to the survival rafts. In certain places on board there should be posters carrying information and guidelines for the use of the life jackets and their location. Inflatable life jackets are well suited for those who work in exposed places. They have a design which does not obstruct the user during an ordinary job. The jacket is automatically inflated when the use falls into the sea, or manually by the user pulling the released line hanging from the side. The automatic function is activated by a small CO2 cylinder which releases when safety device gets in contact with the water. The life jackets carry a whistle and equipment for oral inflation. There is also working jackets containing a solid buoyant agent that does not need to be inflated. These may be used during working conditions which may lead to unintentional inflation because water penetrates and activates the safety devices. A battery-operated strobe light is carried in the breast pocket of a life vest. Cargo ships. A life jacket shall be provided for every person on board the ship. Each life jacket will be fitted with a light which complies with the regulations, applicable from 1st of July, 1991. Life jackets shall be so placed on every vessel, as to readily accessible, and their position shall be plainly indicated. Where, due to the particular arrangements of the ship, the individual life jackets may become inaccessible, alternative provisions shall be made to the satisfaction of the authority. This may include an increase in the number of life jackets to be carried. Every life jacket should comply with the regulation specifications and may be of the automatic inflated type. They should be constructed to the general requirements and fitted with retroreflective materials, be rot-proof and corrosive resistant, and should not be unduly affected by seawater, sunlight, oil or fungal attack. They should be capable of satisfactory operation and be manufactured in a highly visible color. General requirements for life jackets. 1. A life jacket shall not sustain burning or continue melting after being totally enveloped in fire for a period of 2 seconds. 2. A life jacket shall be so constructed that a. After demonstration, a person can correctly do it within a period of 1 minute without assistance. b. It is capable of being with inside out, or is clearly capable of being worn in only one way and, as far as possible, cannot be done incorrectly. c. It is comfortable to wear. d. It allows the wearer to jump a height of at least 4.5 meters into the water without injury and without dislodging or damaging the life jacket. 3. A life jacket shall have sufficient buoyancy and stability in calm and fresh water to a. Lift the mouth of an exhausted or unconscious person not less than 120 millimeters clear of the water with the body inclined backwards at an angle of not less than 20 degrees and not more than 50 degrees from the vertical position. b. Turn the body of an unconscious person in the water from any position to one where the mouth is clear of the water in not more than 5 seconds. 4. A life jacket shall have the buoyancy which is not reduced by more than 5% after 24 hours submersion in fresh water. 5. A life jacket shall allow the person wearing it to swim a short distance and to board a survival craft. 6. Each life jacket shall be fitted with a whistle securely fastened by a cord. Survival suits. Approved survival suits represent a great improvement of the personal life-saving appliances. There are examples of persons having survived more than 20 hours in icy waters in a stormy weather with 6-meter-high waves. Without the survival suit it would hardly have been impossible to survive for more than 15 to 30 minutes. The suit should be a dry suit, that is a suit which prevents the wearer from getting wet if he falls into the water. The survival suit should be equipped with a hood having tightly fitted opening for the face, fixed gloves and footwear with heat-resistant and durable soles as well as straps for lifting purposes. This does not apply for lifting up helicopter. The external layer of the suit should consist of a material that satisfies certain requirements made to breaking strength, tearing strength and resistance to seawater and oil products. It should be non-corrosive and self-extinguishing. In calm waters the survivor should be capable, even if water-filled, of maintaining an unconscious person in a steady buoyant position while keeping his face clear out of the water. But note that the survival suit will not be able to turn an unconscious person who falls into the water with his face down unless this person is wearing a life jacket. The survival suit should offer the least possible hindrance during the breaststroke and backstroke swimming in rough seas and be designed in such a way that it gives minimal interference to movements underwater. The user should be able to jump from a height of at least 5 meters without damaging his suit. When a person wearing the suit is pressed down underwater, the air in the suit should be able to escape in such a way that after 10 seconds not more than 5 liters of air remains in the suit. The survival suit should give sufficient protection against cold so that a person wearing a normal set of thin clothing under the suit is able to stay in a water temperature of 0.1 C for 1 hour without his body temperature being lowered by more than 0.75 C. The survival suit should also offer a certain amount of protection against heat radiation and flames. It should keep its condition even after exposure to heat radiation at 800 C for at least 3 minutes or exposure to temperatures like plus 65 C or 30 C in 24 hours. The survival suit should be of an orange color and should be equipped with at least 9 squares, 5 by 10 cm, of an approved retro-reflecting material. It should also be supplied with the signal whistle. The survival suit and its pack should be clearly marked with the following: Offshore survival suit. Performance requirements. An immersion suit made of material which has no inherent insulation shall be A. Marked with instructions that it must be worn in conjunction with warm clothing. B. So constructed that when worn in conjunction with warm clothing and life jacket, if the suit is to be worn with a life jacket, it shall continue to be sufficient thermal protection following one jump by the wearer into the water from a height of 4.5 meters to ensure that when it is worn for a period of 1 hour in calm circulating water at a temperature of SC, the wearer's body core temperature does not fall more than 2 C. An immersion suit made of material with inherent insulation, when worn either on its own or with a life jacket, if the suit is to be worn with a life jacket, shall provide the wearer with sufficient thermal insulation following on jump into the water from a height of 34.5 meters to ensure that the wearer's body core temperature does not fall more than 2 C after a period of 6 hours in calm circulating water at a temperature of between 0 and 2 C. The immersion suit shall permit the person wearing it, with hands covered, to pick up a pencil and write after being immersed in water at 5 C for a period of 1 hour. A person in fresh water wearing either an immersion suit complying with the life jacket regulations, or an immersion suit with a separate life jacket, shall be able to turn from face down to a face-up position in not more than 5 seconds. Thermal protective aids, not to be confused with immersion suit. A thermal protective aid shall be made of waterproof material having thermal conductivity of not more than 0.25 BV/mK, and shall be constructed that, when used to enclose a person, it shall reduce the convective and evaporative heat loss from the wearer's body. The thermal protective aid shall A. Cover the whole body of a person wearing a life jacket with the exception of the face. Hands shall also be covered unless permanently attached gloves are provided. B. Be capable of being unpacked and easily donned without assistance in a survival craft or rescue boat. C. Permit the wearer to remove it from the water in not more than 2 minutes if it impairs ability to swim. The thermal protective aid shall function properly throughout an air temperature range 30 C to 20 C. Immersion suits. With respect to passenger ships constructed before July 1, 1986, the requirements shall not apply until July 1, 1991. Passenger ships shall carry for each lifeboat on the ship at least 3 immersion suits which comply with the regulations. In addition, a thermal protective aid must be provided for every other person who is to be accommodated in the lifeboats, who is not provided with an immersion suit. These immersion suits and thermal protective aids need not be carried if a. Persons are to be accommodated in totally or partially enclosed lifeboats. b. If the ship is constantly engaged on voyages in warm climates where, in the opinion of the authority, thermal protective aids are unnecessary. With respect to the rescue boat of passenger and cargo ships, each person assigned to the crew of a rescue boat will be provided with an immersion suit of appropriate size, which complies with the regulations. Cargo ships shall carry for each lifeboat on the ship at least 3 immersion suits which comply with the regulations or, if the authority considers it necessary and practicable, 1 immersion suit for every person on board the ship. However, in addition to immersion suits required for life rafts, lifeboats as rescue boats, the vessel shall carry thermal protective aids for persons not provided with immersion suits. These immersion suits and thermal protective aids need not be required if the ship a. has totally enclosed boats on each side of such aggregate capacity as will accommodate the total number of persons aboard, or b. has totally enclosed lifeboats capable of being launched by free fall over the stern of the ship of such aggregate capacity as will directly from the stowed position, together with life rafts on each side of the ship of such aggregate capacity as will accommodate the total number of persons aboard, or c. is constantly engaged on voyage in warm climate where, in the opinion of the authority, immersion suits are unnecessary. Cargo ships of less than 85 meters length other than oil tankers, chemical tankers and gas carriers, shall carry immersion suits for every person on board which complies with the regulations unless the ship a. has davit-launched life rafts, or b. has life rafts equipped with equivalent approved appliances, capable of being used on both sides of the ship and which do not require entry into the water to board the life raft, or c. is constantly engaged on voyages in warm climates where, in the opinion of the authority, immersion suits are necessary. Life rafts shall be provided with thermal protective aids which comply with the regulations, sufficient for 10% of the number of persons the raft is permitted to carry or 2 whichever is greater. Lifeboats shall be provided with thermal protective aids which comply with the regulations, sufficient for 10% of the number of persons the lifeboat is permitted to accommodate or 2, whichever is greater. General requirements for immersion suits. 1. The immersion suit shall be constructed with waterproof material that a. it can be unpacked and donned without assistance within 2 minutes, taking into account any associated clothing and a life jacket if the immersion suit is to be worn in conjunction with life jacket. b. It will not sustain or continue melting after being totally enveloped in a fire for a 2-second period. c. It will cover the whole body with exceptions of the face. Hands shall also be covered unless permanently attached gloves are provided. d. It is provided with arrangements to minimize or reduce free air in the legs of the suit. e. Following a jump from a height of not less than 4.5 meters into the water there is no ingress of water. 2. An immersion suit, which complies with regulations concerning life jackets, may be classified as a life jacket. 3. An immersion suit shall permit the permit wearing it, and also wearing a life jacket, if the suit is to be worn in conjunction with a life jacket. 2. a. Climb down a vertical ladder at least 5 meters in length. b. Perform normal duties during abandonment. c. Jump from a height of no less than 4.5 meters into the water without damaging or dislodging the immersion suit or being injured. d. Swim a short distance through the water and board a survival craft. 4. An immersion suit which has buoyancy and which is designed to be worn without the life jacket shall be fitted with a light and whistle and comply with the life jacket regulations. 5. If the immersion suit is designed to be worn in conjunction with a life jacket, the life jacket should be worn over the immersion suit. The person wearing such an immersion suit shall be able to don a life jacket. Offshore survival suit, for platforms and ships respectively. Name of the manufacturer. Model number. Serial number of the suit. Production date. The ship's name and place of registration. Approved by the Maritime Directorate. Under normal conditions, it should be possible to unpack the survival suit and put it on without assistance in the course of 1 minute. If the survival suit is to remain waterproof, you have to follow the user's guide carefully. Ensure that you put the hood on the right way and that the zip is completely locked. You make the hood fit very carefully if you have beard. The nip is treated with beeswax or acid-free fat. You keep and maintain the suit. Rescue basket. Both the installations and the rescue vessels should be equipped with the rescue basket for hoisting up persons from the sea. The basket should be placed under an approved crane arrangement. The rescue basket should have the biggest possible opening, and it must be able to be lowered so deep into the water that persons in the water easily can slip into the basket. Parts of metal or other hard materials must be satisfactorily upholstered, and the hoisting arrangement should be designed so that person in the basket will not be injured. The basket is constructed to pick up several persons at a time. The picking up of injured people can be done either by unmanned rescue basket. Most rescue baskets are constructed to unmanned. The basket is then lowered into the water, so that it can float down to the distressed person which will be able to get into the basket. The crane operator could also try to pick up the person in the water. This could be dangerous if the person is unconscious because one does not know what injuries he or she has. In such cases, it is advisable that the rescue basket is manned. Chapter 5, Rescue Operation, Rescue by Helicopter. Rescue by helicopter is used both when rescuing badly injured and when rescuing the whole crew from the ship or the survival crafts. A helicopter might use single lift, double lift, basket lift or stretcher lift. 1. Single lift. Single lift is a typical rescue sling. Approach the sling in a way so that it is always between you and the hoist. The sling is to be under the armpits and the straps to be tightened. 2. Double lift. When using a double lift, the helicopter sends a rescuer down to put the sling around the person to be rescued. 3. Basket lift. When using a basket lift, the person has to sit down, with arms and legs inside the basket. The head to be bent towards the knees, the hands around the knees. Keep still till the basket is on board the helicopter. 4. Stretcher lift. When rescuing badly injured persons, stretcher lift is used. A tiller rope is often used for stretcher as well as for basket lifts in order to keep the stretcher or the basket clear of obstacles. The tiller rope must never be made fast on board the ship. In big ships, the injured person most often can be rescued from the deck. In small ships, a raft is put out aft. If practicable, a member of the crew should be in the raft beside the patient in order to assist during the picking up. When the rescue is carried out from a life raft, the roof must be deflated, and all on board must sit down on the roof. When rescuing from lifeboats, masts, antennas, etc., should be laid down. Remember, it is always for the helicopter can land on the water and the rescue can be made from here. The following signals are used for communication with the crew. Hoist, arms raised above horizontally, thumbs up. Do not hoist, arms extended horizontally, fists clench. Special precaution during night operations. It is very important to switch on as much as possible on board the ship in order to facilitate the identification of the ship and illuminate the pickup area and possible obstacles. Rescue man overboard. If you see a person falling overboard, there is no time to lose since it is likely that he will be knocked unconsciously by the fall. Shout "man overboard" and as fast as possible release a rescue raft, a rope ladder, lifebuoy, life jacket, etc. in the vicinity of the accident. The object you throw overboard is meant to serve both as means of rescue for the person in the water and as help to find the distressed person should he drift off. Take care that you or another person informs the control room, bridge so that a rescue operation is started at once. Try to sight the victim so that you will be able to guide standby vessel to the right place. Intent starting at the same point will often lead to lose the observed object. It may be a relief to fix the eyes from time to time a little to one side of the target. In a seaway it will be very difficult to sight a person unless you're quite sure where to look. On ships you shout "man overboard" on the starboard, port side. If possible the wheel is turned hard over the same side as where the person fell overboard. This can prevent him from being caught in the propeller. Then the ship makes the so-called Williamson turn and returns to the place of the accident as quickly as possible. The Williamson turn. Turn the wheel hard over and keep it there until the ship is 60 degrees off the original course, then hard over to the opposite side. Steady up when the ship is approaching the opposite course. All available hands is put on watch duty. While this is being done, the news of the accident must be transmitted on the radio to all ships in the area stating the exact position and time of the accident. A lifeboat, mob boat, is swung out, manned and made ready for launching. Please note that the standby vessel launched from a ship in open sea must have a complete set of emergency equipment. In this way those on board are safe in all cases. Whether the accident is discovered at once or after a lapse of time, the rescue operations must be concentrated in the area where it is assumed the accident occurred. This place, called C0, is marked with a buoy, a raft or the life. The figure shows type of section search usually carried out in such cases. All maneuvers are made 120 degrees to starboard. When searching for the second time, we turn the search pattern by 30 degrees to the right. As shown in the figure, we then cross zero several times during the operation. The Williamson turn. Turn the wheel hard over and keep it there until the ship is 60 degrees off the original course, then hard over to the opposite side. Steady up when the ship is approaching the opposite course. All available hands is put on watch duty. While this is being done, the news of the accident must be transmitted on the radio to all ships in the area stating the exact position and time of the accident. A lifeboat, mob boat, is swung out, manned and made ready for launching. Please note that the standby vessel launched from a ship in open sea must have a complete set of emergency equipment. In this way those on board are safe in all cases. Whether the accident is discovered at once or after a lapse of time, the rescue operations must be concentrated in the area where it is assumed the accident occurred. This place, called C0, is marked with a buoy, a raft or the life. The figure shows type of section search usually carried out in such cases. All maneuvers are made 120 degrees to starboard. When searching for the second time, we turn the search pattern by 30 degrees to the right. As shown in the figure, we then cross zero several times during the operation. This is a situation that requires such high degree of coordination and strength that it must be thoroughly drilled, and not only is sunny and excellent weather. Another method is that one of the assistants stand on the bilge keel and hold onto the railings while he arches his back. Two other assistants maneuver the victim up this human slide and pull him on board with his back to the slide. The simplest and sagest way is to wrap a piece of canvas or a net around the victim and then hoist him on board in a horizontal position. It is also possible to use a specially designed net to be thrown over the person in the water. Afterwards he can be hoisted on board. If weather conditions disallow the launching of a lifeboat, mob boat, the most common method is to use a lifebuoy so that he is on the leeward side. Throw the line to make it land close to the person in the water. The lifebuoy is placed under the arms, and the distressed person is pulled up to and into the standby vessel. How should you throw a lifebuoy to a person in the water so that the person in the water gets hold of the line? If the one in the water is unconscious or for other reasons unable to use the buoy, another person, preferably wearing a diving suit or a survival suit, swings out with a line to assist him. Both are then hauled with his back in the hauling direction. In this way it is possible to breathe although they are hauled through breakers and heavy seas. Rescue by ship. If the conditions permit it, the standby vessel will try to maneuver alongside the lifeboat, raft. The distressed can then enter the ship by means of the boarding net, ladders, a life rope, etc. It is also possible to rig a boarding platform by mooring a lifer aft to the ship's side. This is particularly useful when the survival craft is used to get the survivors quickly on board and then make the craft ready for a new drill. Under certain conditions it may be necessary to transfer persons to the ship by means of a rubber raft. A rocket line may then be shot across to the distressed, who then haul in a strong hawser. The rubber raft is then attached to the line so that it may be hauled between the distressed and the rescuers as many times as necessary. In choppy sea may wash over the raft and press it under. If in exceptional cases, a raft with an inflatable cover is used, the openings in the cover should be perpendicular to hauling direction. Rescue by aircraft. It is only exceptional cases when aircraft can be used in direct maritime rescue operations. The Orion and Hercules aircraft used in such operations in Norway have life-saving equipment that may be dropped so that the distressed are able to stay alive until relief arrives by ship or helicopter. The aircraft are based at Andoya and Gandormoen. The Orions have crew of 11 and fuel for 17 hours. They are all-weather aircraft. The life-saving equipment, the so-called VSB survival set, consists of two 10-man rafts and a container of 40 kilograms of supplies. The three containers in the set are attached to each other by means of twine 500 feet long red buoyant line. The survival set is always dropped on the weather side of the distressed. The rafts are automatically inflated and will drift with the wind relatively fast. The supply container is heavier in the water than the raft so that the person in distress is caught in a U-shaped bend. To the persons in the sea it may seem that the raft float past and off one on either side and wait for the buoyant line. The supply container may be heavy to lift on board the raft by one person alone. For the reason a knife is attached to the packaging to cut the lashings while the container is in the sea. The supply container holds 3 bags that can be lifted into the raft. The bags contain 1 first aid kit, 1 emergency radio, SCRB 310, 243 MHz, 6 emergency signals, day-night orange smoke and intense illumination, 1 signaling mirror, 5 packets of sea coloring matter, 1 flashlight, 10 plastic bags, 8 reflecting blankets, 2 sets of fishing tackle, 10 pairs of wooden mittens, 2 boxes of matches, 1 compass, 10 50 grams boxes of Vaseline, 3 desalting apparatus, 5 emergency rations, 8 hermetically sealed tints of water, 12 survival book, AFM 64-5, 2 wooden blankets, 1 towel. With all its versatility, the helicopter has become the chief instrument of the rescue service of many nations. The distressed person's lack of knowledge in helicopter rescue procedure has resulted in a loss of lives and extreme cases the loss of the helicopter and its crew as well. To carry out a controlled and successful rescue operation it's necessary to have virtual knowledge of the procedure and the equipment in use. Knowledge and training in helicopter rescue operations will reduce the hazards involved and increase the chances of a successful action. Preparation before rescue. When the person in distress have established radio contact with the rescue helicopter, they must continuously listen to the frequency agreed on. As soon as the helicopter has been spotted, they use all means available to attract its attention, for example hand flares, flashlight, signaling mirror etc. If the searchlight is used, it must not be directed towards the helicopter since it may daze the pilot. Before the hoist up from the raft the distressed should deflate the cover and fold it in the bottom of the raft. Then they wait on the cover. It is important to distribute the weight of the persons evenly to prevent the raft from tilting. When the raft is empty, it must either be recovered or sunk. An empty raft may confuse and delay the rescue if there are persons in distress in the area. On board lifeboats the mast and radio antenna are both dismounted. The navigator decides how many and who should be on deck at any given time. He also checks that all persons wear their life jackets correctly and the straps are properly tied. If the person to be rescued is in the water, he should not swim towards the helicopter. It is the helicopter that will approach him. What preparations should be made before you are picked up by the helicopter? Deflate the cover and fold it in the bottom of the raft. Hoisting operation. The hoisting operation is usually performed by means of a rescue lift attached to the strap from a height of about 30 meters. The strap or the sling is padded with buoyant material having a watertight coat. The sling can normally accommodate only one person at a time. At the end of the hoisting line there is a metal cylinder to keep the cable tight or bring the sling into a vertical position when it is floating in the water. There is a guiding line attached to the rescue strap. At the end of the guiding line there is a leather bag filled with sand. When several persons are to be hoisted up by means of the rescue lift, they must seize the guiding line and drop the leather bag into the sea. During the hoisting operation one person keeps an eye on the guiding line to reduce cable swing and prevent the strap cable from getting caught. When the cable is lowered, the guiding line is let into the water again while you pull the strap down. If the guiding line is operated in the correct way, time is saved and rescue action will be safer. Lines from the helicopter must not be attached to the raft or the lifeboat. If this is done, or the strap is caught in an object so that the cable is overloaded, it will be cut and the rescue operation must be discontinued. The use of the rescue strap required that you know how to put it on to avoid injuries or falling out during hoisting. This is the general procedure. 1. Approach the strap or hold it between yourself and the lifting cable. 2. Put one arm through the loop formed by the strap and let it slip over your head and one shoulder. 3. Put the other arm through the loop and let the strap slip over the other shoulder. It is important that you always put on the strap with one arm at a time, so that the other one can be used to keep the life jacket in place. 4. Pull the strap down so it goes across your back, under the arms and round the life jacket. It will then be pushed against your neck and cause breathing difficulties. 5. Check that the lifting cable and the hook are in front of you. Seize the locking device to tighten the strap. Signal that you are ready. The lift itself causes no discomfort as long as the strap has been correctly put on. Remain calm on the way up. Keep your elbows tight to your body and fold your hands across your stomach. You should not attempt to seize the door frame or lean against it either. The lift operator will get you safely into the helicopter. The normal procedure is to send up persons who are injured first. If the injury is of nature that prohibits the use of the rescue strap, it may be necessary to send up another person first to explain the situation. The helicopter may then lower a stretcher and a frogman. The patient must then be properly strapped to the stretcher. This method cannot be used if the injured person is in the water. What do you do on your way up? Remain completely calm. In case a frogman is used, it is he who decides the order and method of the lifting. If the distressed person is lying in the sea, the frogman will fit the strap. The frogman also go up and down with the lift and assist each person. During a flight the helicopter will charge static electricity. To avoid an electric shock you must not touch the lifting cable until it has been touched ground, that is the sea or the deck. This shock can be very strong, but it is usually harmless. It should be noted that the discharge may create sparks that may ignite gas or oil leaks in the area.
Rescue, pickup by ship. A pickup operation, whether it is in case of a shipwreck or a sick transport, will rarely be carried out from the vessel itself. Under certain conditions, however, the helicopters may take persons on board directly from the ship, both on a stretcher and in the strap. Because of masts and various stays, this is the normal procedure. As soon as the helicopter has contact, but not before, the crew on board the rafts are made fast to the ship by means of a line 20-40 meters long. The ship should maintain stairway during the rescue operations. This also applies in cases where the distressed persons are picked up from rafts and even if the waves are 8-10 meters high. It is very important that the raft is towed with the entrance aft and the sea anchor out. If necessary, the sea may be calmed by means of oil. If the rescue operations take place from a lifeboat or a launch, one of these can be navigated on the port side of the vessel in a distance of 50-100 meters. Distressed persons will be lifted by means of a rescue basket, strap as described above. An assistant, a frogman, will be used to the extent required. Chapter 6, Lifeboats. Lifeboats are waterborne crafts capable of sustaining lives and persons in distress from the time of abandoning the ship. It is designed to be carried and hoisted aboard ship and should be maintained in ready condition at all times for rescue operations, for the training of the crew in man-overboard drills, and ultimately for abandoned ship operations. Types of lifeboats. A. According to Construction 1. Totally open lifeboats. The glass-reinforced plastic boat. Glass-reinforced plastic, GRP, lifeboats hull are generally molded in one piece including the keel and gunwale. Polyurethane foam buoys are then molded to the shape of the hull, fitted and sprayed with glass fiber, thus forming a complete and strong side bench unit. Wood is used only for the pine floors and mahogany thwarts. Watertight lockers are fitted under the thwarts to contain food, equipment and water. In GRP boats, the permanent markings are found on a plate attached to the bow of the boat, on which is found the dimensions, seating capacity, the amount of plastic foam used under the side benches, the dates and surveyor's initials. This plate should not be removed. Parts of a GRP boat. 1. Bilge grab rails are handrails secured to the outside of the boat below the turn of the bilge. They can be held onto if the lifeboat capsizes. 2. Buoyancy tanks in some boats are made of copper or yellow metal. A corrosion-free metal is used in GRP boats. Molded and sprayed with glass fiber, they will prevent the lifeboat from sinking in the event of it being filled with water. 3. Bottom boards, portable pine gratings laid on the bottom to prevent the inside skin of the boat from damage.
4. Bow forward, end of the boat. 5. Bow sheets, a platform in the bows. 6. Cleat metal fittings, for belaying purposes. 7. Fair lead, a fitting on the gunwale close to the stern, used as a lead for the painter, tow rope, or sea anchor hawser. 8. Gunwale, the framing forming the upper edge of the boat. 9. Keel, is the backbone of the boat. 10. Lifting hooks, one forward and one aft, by which the boat is connected to the lower face blocks, when being hoisted or lowered. 11. Side benches, seats running fore and aft along the sides of the boat over the buoyancy tanks. 12. Stern sheets, in some boats the platform is the stern. 13. Stern post, the aftmost part of the boat on which the rudder is hinged. 14. Thwarts, seats stretching across the boat. 15. Mast thwart, the foremost thwart to which the mast clamp is fitted. 16. Stem post, the foremost part of the boat. 17. Grab lines, a line fastened to the outside of the lifeboat to enable survivors to hang on and be assisted into the boat. 18. Lifeboat or boarding ladder, a short ladder to enable survivors to climb into the boat. IMO. General requirements for lifeboats on ships built after 1st of July 1986. 1. Construction of lifeboats. A. All lifeboats shall be properly constructed and shall be of such form and proportions that they have ample stability in a seaway and sufficient freeboard when loaded with their full complement of persons and equipment. All lifeboats shall have rigid hulls and shall be capable of maintaining positive stability when in an upright position in calm water and loaded with their full complement of persons and equipment, and hold in any one location below the water line, assuming no loss of buoyancy material and no other damage. B. All lifeboats shall be of sufficient strength to I. Enable them to be safely lowered into the water when loaded with their full complement of persons and equipment, and 2. Be capable of being launched and towed when the ship is making headway at a speed of 5 knots in calm water. C. Hulls and rigid covers shall be fire-retarding or non-combustible. D. Seating shall be provided on thwarts, benches or fixed chairs fitted as low as practicable in the lifeboat and constructed so as to be capable of supporting the number of persons each weighing 100 kilograms, 220 pounds, for which spaces are provided. E. Each lifeboat shall be sufficient strength to withstand a load, without residual deflection on removal of that load. I. In the case of the boats with metal hulls, 1.25 times the total mass of the lifeboat when loaded with its full complement of persons and equipment. 2. In the case of other boats, twice the total mass of the lifeboat when loaded with its full complement of persons and equipment. F. Each lifeboat shall be sufficient strength to withstand, when loaded with full complement of persons and equipment and with, where applicable, skates or fenders in position, a lateral impact against the ship's side as an impact velocity of at least 3.5 meters per second and also a drop into the water from a height of at least 3 meters, 9 feet 9 inches. G. The vertical distance between the floor surface and the interior of then enclosure of canopy over 50% of the floor shall be I. Not less than 1.3 meters, 4.25 feet, for a lifeboat permitted to accommodate 9 persons or less. 2. Not less than 1.7 meters, 5 feet 7 inches, for a lifeboat permitted to accommodate 24 persons or less. 3. Not less than the distance as determined by linear interpolation between 1.3 m and 1.7 meters for a lifeboat permitted to accommodate between 9 to 24 persons. 2. Lifeboat fittings. A. All lifeboats shall provide with not less than one drain valve fitted near the lowest point in the hull, which shall automatically open to drain water from the hull when the lifeboat is not waterborne and automatically close to prevent entry of the water when the lifeboat is waterborne. Each drain valve shall be provided with a cap or plug to close the valve, which shall be attached to the lifeboat by a lanyard, a chain, or other suitable means readily accessible from inside the lifeboat, and their positions shall be clearly indicated. B. All lifeboats shall be provided with rudder and a tiller. When a wheel or other remote steering mechanism is also provided, the tiller shall be capable of controlling the rudder in case of failure of the steering mechanism. The rudder shall be permanently attached to the lifeboat. The tiller shall be permanently installed on, or linked to the rudder stock. However, if the lifeboat has a remote steering mechanism, the tiller may be removable and securely stowed near the rudder stock. The rudder and tiller shall be so arranged as not to be damaged by operation of the release mechanism or the propeller. C. Except in the vicinity of the rudder and propeller, a buoyant lifeline shall be bucketed around the outside of the lifeboat. D. Lifeboat which are not self-righting when capsized shall have suitable handholds on the underside of the hull to enable persons to cling to the lifeboat. The handholds shall be fastened to the lifeboat in such a way that, when subjected to an impact sufficient to cause them break away from the lifeboat, they break away without damaging the lifeboat. E. All lifeboats shall be fitted with sufficient watertight lockers or compartments to provide for the storage of the small items of equipment, water and provisions required by paragraph 8 of this regulation. Means shall be provided for the storage of collected rainwater. F. Every lifeboat to be launched by a fall or falls shall be fitted with a release mechanism complying with the following. I. The mechanism shall be so arranged that all hooks are released simultaneously. 2. The mechanism shall have 2 release capabilities as follows. 1. A normal release capability which will release the lifeboat when there is no load on the hooks. 2. An on-load capability which will release the lifeboat with a load on the hooks. This release shall be so arranged as to release the lifeboat under any conditions of loading from no load with a lifeboat when loaded with its full complement of persons and equipment. This release capability shall be adequately protected against accidental or premature use. 3. The release control shall be clearly marked in a color that contrasts with its surroundings. 4. The mechanism shall be designed with a factor of safety of 6 based on the ultimate strength of the materials used, assuming the mass of the lifeboat is equally distributed between the falls. G. Every lifeboat shall be fitted with a release device to enable the forward painter to be released when under tension. H. Every lifeboat shall be provided with a permanently installed earth connection and arrangements for adequately sighting and securing in the operating position the antenna provided with the portable radio apparatus. I. A manually controlled lamp visible on a dark night with a clear atmosphere at a distance of at least 2 miles for a period of not less than 12 hours shall be fitted to the top of the cover or enclosure. If the light is a flashing light, It shall initially flash at a rate of not less than 50 flashes per minute over the first 2 hours of operation of the 12-hour operating period. A lamp or source of light shall be fitted inside the lifeboat to provide illumination for not less than 12 hours to enable reading of survival and equipment instructions. However, oil lamps shall not be permitted for this purpose. Unless expressly provided otherwise, every lifeboat shall be provided with effective means of bailing or be automatically self-bailing. Every lifeboat shall be so arranged that an adequate view forward, aft and to bow sides is provided from the control and steering position for safe launching and maneuvering. 3. Lifeboat equipment. All items for lifeboat equipment, whether required by this paragraph or elsewhere in this regulation, with the exception of boat hooks which shall be kept free for fending off purposes, shall be secured within the lifeboat by lashings, storage in lockers or compartments, storage in brackets or similar mounting arrangements or other suitable means. The equipment shall be secured in such a manner so as not to interfere with any abandonment procedures. All items of lifeboat equipment shall be as small and of as little mass as possible and shall be packed in a suitable and compact form. Except where otherwise stated, the normal equipment of every lifeboat shall consist of sufficient buoyant oars to make headway in calm seas. Thole pins, crutches or equivalent arrangements shall be provided for each oar provided. Thole pins or crutches shall be attached to the boat by lanyards or chains. 2 boat hooks. A buoyant bailers and 2 buckets. A survival manual. A binnacle containing an efficient compass which is luminous or provided with suitable means of illumination. In a totally enclosed lifeboat, the binnacle shall be permanently fitted at the steering position. In any other lifeboat, it shall be provided with suitable mounting arrangements. 6. A sea anchor of adequate size fitted with a shock-resistant hawser and a tripping line which provides a firm hand grip when wet. The strength of the sea anchor, hawser and tripping line shall be adequate for all sea conditions. 7. 2 efficient painters of length equal to not less than twice the distance from the stowage position of the lifeboat to the water line in the highest seagoing conditions or 15 meters, 49 feet, whichever is the greater. 1 painter attached to the release device required by paragraph 7G of this regulation, shall be placed at the forward end of the lifeboat and the other shall be firmly secured at or near the bow of the lifeboat ready for use. 8. 2 hatchets, 1 at each end of the lifeboat. 9. Watertight receptacles containing a total of 3 liters 5.3 pints, of accommodate, of which 1 liter, 1.8 pints, per person may be replaced by the salting apparatus capable of producing an equal amount of fresh water in 2 days. Fresh water stored and tanked is to be frequently changed. 10. A rust-proof dipper with lanyard. 11. A rust-proof graduated drinking vessel. 12. A food ration totaling not less than 10,000 kJ for each person the lifeboat is permitted to accommodate. These rations shall be kept in airtight packaging and be stowed in a watertight container. 13. 4 rocket parachute flares. 14. 6 hand flares. 15. 2 buoyant smoke signals. 16. 1 waterproof electric torch suitable for Morse signaling together with 1 space set of batteries and 1 spare bulb in a waterproof container. 17. 1 daylight signaling mirror with instructions for its use for signaling to ship and aircrafts. 18. 1 copy of the life-saving signals prescribed by the regulations, on a waterproof card or in a waterproof container. 19. 1 whistle or equivalent sound signal. 20. A first aid outfit in a waterproof case capable of being closed tightly after use. 21. 6 doses of anti-seasickness medicine and other seasickness bag for each person. 22. A jackknife to be kept attached to the boat with the lanyard. 23. 3 tin openers. 24. 2 buoyant rescue quoits, attached to not less than 30 meters, 100 feet, of buoyant line. 25. A manual pump. 26. 1 set of fishing tackle. The RFD Solar Still Mark III. Operation commences when the buoyancy chamber and still cone or inflated seawater, contaminated water or urine is placed in the blast chamber sump. Distillation will then commence greater than the still is exposed to the sun. Always ensure exposure is away from the shaded areas to obtain maximum yield, although the still will continue to produce drinkable water even in overcast weather. The still is capable of achieving 175 cc drinking water per hour at peak performance. 27. Sufficient tools for minor adjustments to the engine and its accessories. 28. Portable fire extinguishing equipment suitable for extinguishing oil fires. 29. A searchlight capable of effectively illuminating a light-colored object at night having a width of 18 meters, 60 feet, at a distance of 180 meters, 585 dft, for a total period of 6 hours and working for not less than 3 hours continuously. 30. An efficient radar reflector. 31. Thermal protective aids sufficient for 10% the number of persons the lifeboat is permitted to accommodate or to whichever is the greater. 32. In the case of ship engaged on voyage of such nature and duration that in the opinion of the administration, the items specified in subparagraphs I and Z are unnecessary, the administration may allow these items dispensed with. 4. Lifeboat markings. Lifeboat to 11 APKS. A. The dimension of the lifeboat and the number of persons it is permitted to accommodate shall be marked on it in clear permanent characters. B. The name of port of registry of the ship to which the lifeboat belongs shall be marked on each side of the lifeboat in block capitals of the Roman alphabet. C. Means of identifying the ship to which the lifeboat belongs and the number of the lifeboat shall be marked in such a way that they are visible from above. 3. Partially enclosed lifeboats. Final requirements for partially enclosed lifeboats on ship built after 1st of July 1986. 1. Partially enclosed lifeboats shall comply with the requirements for all lifeboats and in addition shall comply with the following. 2. Every partially enclosed lifeboat shall be provided with effective means of bailing or be automatically self-bailing. 3. Partially enclosed lifeboats shall be provided with permanently attached rigid covers over not less than 20% of the length of the lifeboat from the stern and not less than 20% of the length of the lifeboat from the aftermost part of the lifeboat. The lifeboat shall be fitted with a permanently attached foldable canopy, which together with the rigid covers completely encloses the occupants of the lifeboat in a weatherproof shelter and protects them from exposure. The canopy shall be so arranged that A. It is provided with adequate rigid sections to permit erection of the canopy. B. It can easily erected by not more than 2 persons. C. It is insulated to protect the occupants against heat and cold by means of not less than 2 layers of material separated by an air gap or other equally efficient means. Means shall be provided to prevent accumulation of water in the air gap. D. Its exterior is of highly visible color and its interior is of a color which does not cause discomfort to the occupants. E. It has entrances at both ends and on each side, provided with efficient adjustable closing arrangements which can be easily and quickly opened and closed from inside or outside so as to permit ventilation but exclude sea water, wind, and cold. Means shall be provided for holding the entrances securely in the open and closed position. F. With the entrances closed, it admits sufficient air for the occupants at all times. G. It has means for collecting rainwater. H. The occupants can escape in the event of the lifeboat capsizing. 4. The interior of lifeboat shall be of highly visible color. 5. The radio telegraph installation required by these regulations shall be installed in a cabin large enough to accommodate both the equipment and the person using it. No separate cabin is required if the construction of the lifeboat provides a sheltered space to the satisfaction of the administration. Self-righting partially enclosed lifeboats. 1. Self-righting partially enclosed lifeboats shall comply with the regulations for partially enclosed lifeboats and in addition with the following requirements. 2. Enclosure. A. Permanently attached rigid covers shall be provided extending over not less than 20% of the length of the lifeboat from the stern and not less than 20% of the length of the lifeboat from the aftermost part of the lifeboat. B. The rigid covers shall form two shelters. If the shelter have bulkheads, they shall have openings of sufficient size to permit easy access by persons wearing an immersion suit or warm clothes and a life jacket. The interior height of the shelters shall be sufficient to permit persons easy access to their seats in the bow and stern of the lifeboat. C. The rigid covers shall be so arranged that they include windows of translucent panels to admit sufficient daylight to the inside of the lifeboat with the openings or canopies closed so as to make artificial light unnecessary. D. The rigid covers shall have railings to provide a secure handhold for persons moving about to the exterior of the lifeboat. E. Open parts of the lifeboat shall be fitted with the permanently attached foldable canopy so arranged that I. It can be easily erected by not more than 2 persons in not more than 2 minutes. 2. It is insulated to protect the occupants against cold by means of not less than 2 layers of material separated by an air gap or other equally efficient means. F. The enclosure formed by the rigid covers and canopy shall be so arranged as to allow launching and recovery operations to be performed without any occupant having to leave the enclosure. 2. That it has entrances at both ends on each side, provided with efficient adjustable closing arrangements which can be easily and quickly opened and closed from inside and outside so as to permit ventilation but exclude sea water, wind and cold. Means shall be provided for holding the entrances securely in the open and in the close position. 3. That within all entrances closed, sufficient air is admitted for the occupants at all times. 4. That it has means of collecting rainwater. V. That the exterior of the rigid covers and canopy and the interior of the part of the lifeboat covered by the canopy are of highly visible color. The interior of the shelters shall be of a color which does not cause discomfort to the occupants. V. That it is possible to row the lifeboat. 3. Propulsion. A. The engine and transmission shall be controlled from the helmsman's position. B. The engine and engine installation shall be capable of running in any position during capsize and continue to run after the lifeboat returns to the upright or shall automatically stop on capsizing and be easily returned after the lifeboat returns to the upright and the water has been drained from the lifeboat. The design of the fuel and lubricating systems shall prevent the loss of fuel and the loss of more than 250 milliliters, 1/2 pint of lubricating oil from the engine during capsize. C. Air-cooled engines shall have a duct system to take in cooling air from, and exhaust it to, the outside of the lifeboat. Manually operated dampers shall be provided to enable cooling air to be taken in from, and exhausted to, the interior of the lifeboat.